First, let's take a look at the mercenary itself. Augustine is a human warrior that you encounter shortly after reaching the Alachian Sea in Adventure Zone 2. He has 27 starting health with a starting end size of 7 and no additional charges. His power is Galvanized. Basic, 3 charges. Target troop you control gets +2/+2. Note that this modification is permanent. His passive is Bold Determination. Troops you control with 4 attack or more have Steadfast. Although not necessary for this configuration to work, his upgraded passive is Overpowering Blows. Troops you control with 6 attack or more have Crush. For his shard grid, Augustine has primary access to Diamond, Ruby, and Sapphire with 4 copies of both commons and uncommons. He has very limited access to artifacts with only 1 copy of each rarity. His deck rule reads, can't include underworld troops in your deck. Overall, Augustine's 3 main strengths are that his shard grid allows for very consistent deck building, that his power, accelerated with talents and mercenaries, can consistently be used on turn 2, and the fact that he himself is a warrior leads to an aggressive configuration that puts a significant amount of pressure, often leading to a quick victory. Now let us review the configuration itself. For our party composition, we're going to use Clatterclank and Katsuhiro. Clatterclank has a party passive, reading at the start of the game, if you have more cards in your deck than each opposing champion, gain a charge. Katsuhiro's passive is, at the start of the game, if an opposing champion won the coin flip, gain a charge. The way we're going to use these 2 powers in conjunction is that we're always going to choose to be on the draw, that way we're going always to have the additional charge from Katsuhiro. We're also going to build a deck with 61 cards in it, so that we're always going to have the Clatterclank power active, meaning that every game that we choose to be on the draw, we will start with 2 additional charges. It means that on the first turn of the game, if we play a 1-drop for instance, we're going to be able to use our champion power Galvanize right away on turn 1, or wait and activate it on turn 2. It also means that we're going to get another activation very early in the game to put an enormous amount of pressure on our opponent, even though we're playing very small troops early in the game. Onto the list itself, we're running a 24 shard base with 9 ruby shards, 11 diamond shards, and 4 Ayotochi coins. We're also running 1 Spectral Acorn to get us up to 61 card to activate the Clatterclank for the party passive. The first centerpiece of the deck is Form Ranks. It is a 1-cost quick action that reads, troops you control that shares a class with you get +1/+1. Our mercenary is a warrior, so it makes sure that any warrior that we have in play gets +1/+1. We're also running the equipment for it, the steel threads that change the text to +2/+2 instead, meaning that every time we're going to resolve this card, we're going to win fairly fast. It is also a quick action, so we can use it during combat. For our warriors, the first one will be Shield Trainer. It's a 1-cost human warrior. It's a 1/1 that has Inspire +1 defense. Some amount of the time the +1 defense would be there, but in this is just a 1-cost warrior with a small upside that sometimes makes a difference. Next one is fairly significant. It's another of our engine. It's the One and War Hero. It's another 1-cost human warrior. It's a 1/1 that has the text. This has +1 attack for each other human you control. +1 attack stacks fairly quickly with the recruiters and the other humans that we have. Also, we're running the equipment for it, the Old Reliable, which has the text, while you control 3 or more humans, this has Swift Strike. So if you're going wide very quickly in the game, this can get Swift Strike and then it can attack without impunity until your opponent is dead, which makes them a very efficient threat in the list. Next one in the warrior configuration is Ardent Recruiter, 2-cost, 1/3 human warrior. It reads, your Ardent troops in all zones have cost -1. All zones means crypt, deck, and board, even in the void zone. This is very powerful piece of PvE card, and it will accelerate the way you play this deck fairly quickly. Any hand that has an Ardent Recruiter in it and enough resources to play it is usually a keep. While also running the equipment for it, the Ardent Chestplate, that also adds text to it, reading, when another Ardent Troop enters play under your control, this gets +1/+1. As you might have figured already, this one will get pretty big fairly quickly. reinforcing the aggressive archetype that we're running. We're running next Fuel of Fortifier. It's a 2-cost quick action in Ruby that each champion draws 2 cards. Usually giving cards to your opponent is not a great thing, but when you plan on ending the game very quickly, they will often die with a lot of cards in their hand. So the fact that you're going to draw cards and you're likely going to kill them before they use their cards negates most of the problematic. Also, most of the time you will be using it on their turn just before the end of the turn, so that you start your turn with additional cards that you can play right away. And again, more often than not, you're going to kill them before they can use their additional cards. So it's just a very efficient way to draw more fuel for your deck, and it's really appropriate name for that kind of card. Next one is Pyresoul Summoner. This is a human, not a warrior though, but it is a very strong card that will help the deck in scenarios where the game lingers or the board is stabilized and you need to just get a bit more stuff so you can just break through. And this is very cool card to do it. So it's still a human, so it will help triggering the Wanted War Hero power with the weapon. But this one reads basic 4-cost summon a phantom. A phantom is a 1/1 flight for 1. And the other one is basic 4-cost summon a blaze elemental. This is 3-cost 3/1 and has speed. At the end of the turn, sacrifice it. So you're in a stall board, you're either going to start generating blade elemental to kill them if you're able to make them through, or the most likely scenario is you're just going to start creating phantoms until you can overpower your opponent with them. We're running 3 Decree of Banishing. This is a very powerful card. Deploy void target opposing troop when this lives for play, but each card voided by it into play. There's very few challenges in the campaign where your opponent will be removing your constants. So this is basically reads 2-cost void any threat. And there's a decent amount of things that are very big, very early in the game, in the campaign, where being able to use Decree of Banishing to get rid of them makes a very big difference. There's a few dungeons as well. There's you know, opponent will start with big troops that you need to wave fairly quickly to deal with them. So 2-cost, deal with pretty much any troop that doesn't have spell shield, makes a ton of difference. Next we have Brutal Commander with its 2 equipment. First, Brutal Commander reads 3-cost, 1/3, Rage 1, Orc Warrior. No, another warrior. When this deals damage to opposing champion, search your deck for an Orc with cost equal or less than the damage dealt and put it into your hand. We're running the Trinket that give him speed. We're also running the Glove that changes the text a little bit, and instead of putting the Orc into our hand, we put it into play. So the turn you play him is going to be, and you attack with him, it's going to be a 2 attack, 3 defense troop, and might be bigger if you use your champion power on it. And then you're going to look into your deck, find an Orc that costs equal or less than the amount of damage you dealt, and you're going to put it into play. Now we don't have a ton of Orcs in the list, but the ones that we have are either Brutal Commander or the next one that we're going to review, and it's just a way to get free cards on the play, free warriors. We have some, you know, buff that will buff all our team. We have our champion power that will make our troops bigger. So we have a lot of ways to generate pressure, get wider, get more threats on the board with this. It's very good piece of PvE card that, you know, a lot of the Ruby aggressive decks will be running. Last troop of the deck is a Gem-Crazed Berserker. It's a 3-cost 3/1 Orc Warrior. So this is the other Orc that we're running. It's still Warrior. We're using the Flight Diamond Gem on him. So when it attacks, it gains Flight. It's a way to get an evasive threat. There's a decent amount of fights in the campaign where you will encounter board stall, and having some amount of evasion in your list is fairly important, even more so for aggressive decks. So we already saw that we had the Pyresoul Summoner in our list, and that provides phantoms, and this is the other way that we get evasive threats, is using the Gemborn the Gem-Crazed Berserker to attack with flight. And in combination with the Brutal Commander, where you can just go and get them and put them into play, it makes it so that these two snowball together fairly quickly. Last card of the list is Staggering Blast. It's high cost at 4 for an aggressive list, and it's basic action, but what it does is fairly important for a list like that. It deals 1 damage to each opposing troop without flight. Damaged troop gets this can't block this turn. Most of the time, if you get into a bolt stall and you draw a Staggering Blast, you just play it. All non-flight troops cannot block, and then you swing for victory. It's another way to break board stalls with that kind of an aggressive list. Now, as always, you can reconfigure, change the numbers of these lists so that it suits better the cards that you have in your collection, or the encounters that you're farming. Say you're farming, you decided to farm a specific dungeon, for instance. You may want to change the kind of removal that you have to better suit the dungeon. Maybe you don't need that many card draw and you just need more early power cards. These lists are for the new player as well, so we're running all commons and uncommon cards in the list. So if you ever open or get some very strong rare human or orc warriors, of course you should side them in the deck to add more synergies. The list has the add equipment open as well, so if you find a good one that you have in your collection, this can easily be reconfigured to get them. But for the most part, what you want to have is cheap warriors that you can deploy very early in the game. You want to have some amount of evasion. You want to have a small amount of removal, a bit of card draw if you can, and some cards that will help you break a board stall. Resource base, I wouldn't recommend to go lower than 24. We're still running 3 drops and some amount of 4 drops. So this is fairly important. We need to reach 3 resources every game, so running less than 24 is a bit hard. We're even running Ayotochi coins so that if we draw them later, it's not too bad in the list, but you can play with them. As I mentioned, you can change the Ayotochi coins for just ruby shards if you don't like them, and there's a few things that you can do. But I think that the main piece for the deck is really farm ranks, that since you're warrior and you're playing all warrior except 2 cards here, you're going to have a lot of value from it, and as you will see in the play through, it's going to make a huge difference in the games. For our gameplay, since this is a new player configuration, we are going to do a Bleak Citadel dungeon run located in the first adventure zone. Now that the list has a strong enough core that you can even tackle most of this again. For our gameplay, since this is a new player configuration, we're going to do a Bleak Citadel dungeon run located at For our gameplay, since this is a new player configuration, we're going to do a Bleak Citadel dungeon run located in the first adventure zone. Note that the list has a strong enough core that you can even tackle most of the second adventure zones encounter with it. However, you likely want to do some upgrades before going to the last 2 dungeons. But now, let's start with the first fight in this one. Battle, and here we go. Again, most of the time you want to choose to be on the draw, just to get the additional charges. However, there are some encounters, even more so in Adventure Zone 2, that start with very strong troops where you do want to be on the play. But for the most part, you just choose to be on the draw. Starting in is not stellar, but we start with a 1 war hero, we've got a shell trainer, we've got all the shards that we need, and we've got a way to break board stall if we ever end up in one. So, and we're going to be able to activate our champion power fairly early to make this one a very big troop. So I think this is a keep. It's not the most aggressive keep, but it works. We usually want to do shield trainer first, but we really just want to be aggressive. So when you have to choose between shield trainer and 1 war hero, often 1 war hero is the best way to do it. if you expect your opponent to use, you know, very early damage or small removal, you can use your champion power right away on turn 1 most of the time to make sure that it lives, but in this case, we're good. So we're going to use a shield trainer here, plus another one in our hero. We've got 3 humans, so they're now Swift Strike. We're going to make the first one bigger. Now as Steadfast because of the passive. And then we can attack for 5 on turn 2. And we likely should be able to kill the opponent on turn 3. Or maybe not. A blocker with life drain is a bit of a pain, but right now we're in such a great position that it shouldn't be too much of a problem. This turn, we're not going to do much, just play all the shield trainers. These 2 heroes will have a lot of attacks, they have Swift Strike, so no problem sending them into combat. The AI decides not to block and die. Alright, we'll take an easy win when we can. Turn 3 win here, and then go on to the next fight, which will be Grimskull Sorcerer. This one is interesting since the Grimskull Sorcerer tends to play a lot of blockers, so you can end up in a board stall in this one, and this is why having some, you know, flight attackers makes a lot of difference. We start with our thresholds and a recruiter. I kind of like this hand. We also have a form the rank, so it doesn't need much. I mean, even as soon as we get another troop, we should be in business. And we've got a few draws for that. Sadly, the first row wasn't really a troop, but we've got at least 2 more to go before it starts to be worrying. And here's the Ardent Recruiter on turn 2. It has 3 defense, so I don't feel the need to make it +2/+2 yet with the champion power, but we'll certainly will at this point. Yeah, not drawing another troop here is a bit of a bummer, but that's okay. I mean, we're still attacking with a 3/5 on turn 3. All our upcoming troops will be -1 cost. We've got a Staggering Blast to break a board stall if we end up in one. In the meantime, we're starting with a very high amount of health, so I don't feel under a lot of pressure right now. We can just keep attacking, and here we get a Brutal Commander that costs 2. We're going to play it. We're going to use our champion power to make it big so that we can get another Hark when it does damage to a champion, the opposing champion, and then we attack with all. No blocks. We could add, actually, yeah, so here at quick we're at 12 damage, and now we've got a kill. Alright, easy peasy. Turn 4 kill. We got some, I don't know, it's still good, right? This is how the foreigner ranks are really good at ambushing your opponent and attacking for a lot of damage on, you know, unsuspected damage. So often the AI will not choose to not block, and then you would just be able to make your troops really big, and you're going to be able to win all of that. Here we're just going to change that. I don't like this one, but we do have a Berserker in hand. We've got most of the thresholds that we need, and on turn 2 we can draw more cards, so should be okay. Going to open up with a diamond. Doesn't really matter. So second turn we're not going to play anything, but at the end of our opponent's turn we're going to draw 2 more cards, and hopefully by turn 3 we're going to have something significant to play. Thankfully we're not under any kind of big pressure right now. That's good. If we manage to draw Ruby, Brutal Commander is going to be awesome on next turn. Spy is not great for us. We did not draw Ruby Shard, did we? Nope. Okay, so we're not going to play Brutal Commander, but we've got a nice suit of troops here. Oh, we'll do that. They both get 1 defense out of the Inspire trigger. Not sure that I want to make them bigger yet. I will use it right away because next turn we're going to use another activation out of it. These two already have Swift Strike, so I don't want to make them necessarily bigger. I want to make sure that I attack with a maximum number of troops next turn, so we're going to use it on the Shield Trainer in this situation here, making sure that things go very smoothly. Alright. And we've got a Ruby Shard, so this one's going to be Brutal Commander with more damage, and then we attack with everything. If the AI wants to double block this guy here, I'll be happy. There will be less blocker, and that's it. We don't get to play a free card, a free troop from our deck, but we do get to put our opponent very low. If there's one thing that the list is, you know, susceptible to lose to, is a lot of flyers, because we don't have defense for flyers. Usually you can put enough, you know, pressure on your opponent that he has to block with his flying troops, but that you don't really care that they have troops. They end up not attacking with them because they need to defense. But there are some encounters where there's a lot of flying troops early in the game, and they're very hard to beat. You're just going to use Form the Ranks for the win with the unsuspected for 5 damage here from the Shield Trainer. This is coming along fairly well. The way we use these mercenary usually is that you create a new character and then you want to level your character very quickly. You don't want to have to update your list every time or every odd levels, right? So what you do is that on your second character you create a new character, and you use your mercenary to level up and do the questing instead of using your character until it's a higher level, and you can do a more, you know, stronger build with it. So having these free mercenaries with strong builds often help leveling new character and speed up the process of getting more loots and all sorts of things. So this is okay. We don't have Ruby though. We have a free draw. This could be Ruby. Or troop, but we have a free mulligan, so we're going to use it. Wow, this is not great, so we're going to go down to 6. Oh, this is much better. Much better. So the free mulligan in PvE, use it as much as you want. This is very great, and you can take a little bit more risk with that building and do it a little bit more of gold fishing for nice hands if you want, but for the most part it's just really nice mechanic that you don't have in PvE. You should take advantage of. Here, this is going to be a hard fight. This one cannot attack because of the inner conflicts. However, we can still play another troop here. Will do. And we can use Decree of Banishing on this guy here because he does tend to get out of it quickly. Sadly, we don't have a nice attack here, and we don't really need to use our champion power activation. We'd rather keep it for something, you know, that can attack. We might use it on the recruiter to put some pressure at this point, since we have another activation on the bank. Anyway, I think that's the sensible thing to do in this position. From the rank for only one troop doesn't appears to be good enough. We're just going to wait. At least to have at least another warrior. We'd like to see one of our orcs or a Pyresoul summoner. Now, Pyresoul summoner now costs 0 because of the 2 recruiters, and we've got enough to start activating it. The first thing I'm going to do is summon a Phantom, and since we have our champion power activation, we can make this as a 3/3 troop to start attacking in the air and get a bit ahead on the board and the pressure we can provide. On to the new turn. Opponent has a flyer. That's not great for us. Let's see what we can draw out of the coin here. A diamond shard is not great. Well, since we have another activation because of the coin, might as well make this a 5/5 and start attacking through his vulture. And now that it has 5 attack, it also gets steadfast from the passives from Augustine, so this is fairly cool. No flight blocker, that's perfect. Shield trainer is not the end of the world. We'll still attack with our 5/5 here. Next turn we attack for lethal, and in the meantime we can create phantoms. Here we go. Staggering blast here is perfect, so this is what we're going to do. Make all the ground troop cannot block. We can use from the rank to boost 2 of our attackers, attack with everything, and this should be lethal. Yeah. That worked fine. Alright. On to the last boss of the dungeon. Should be fairly interesting. Verev. Go second. And wow, this is a great hand. Great hand. Well, normally... Well, no. We've got a turn 1 Wounded War hero into a bunch of recruiter. This should be a good fight. So next turn this guy is going to be 2, 3, 4 attack. It's going to have steadfast. And then next turn we're just empty our ends on the board, and this should be more or less leading to a very fast win. And even this guy is going to get Swift Strike next turn. And we play at least 3 troops. We might even be able to draw more cards. That's great. So play a Shard. Play the first Recruiter. Second Recruiter costs 0. Then our Gem-Crazed Berserker costs 0. Now we're going to try and see if we can draw more troops that cost 0. Nice. Sadly, we don't have a threshold for Brutal Commander, but if we did, that would have been... It's still one hell of a turn, but could have been even better. Next turn might just be the win here. Alright. We don't have the threshold for these. It's really sad, but what we can do, however, is just remove this guy from combat, attack with everything, and I'm fairly sure that we have enough to kill our opponent. And this is it. I hope you liked the video. I hope you liked this build. Again, fairly easy one to get by. This is all commons and uncommons. The recruiters, you actually get them from the packs from this dungeon. And it's a very good build if you want to level new characters through the first adventure zone. And you use the default mercenary that you get in Augustine. And then you can do all sorts of nice things with him. Make sure that you level fairly fast into the Adventure Zone 2. And you can still use it through Adventure Zone 2, but as you get more cards, you can upgrade the deck, add more, better warriors in the deck, use better equipment slots to remove the Brutal Commander and the Gem-Crazed Berserker for just better humans or better warrior in general. You can change the, removal suit. and Staggering Blast here for things that remove a lot of small flyers, for instance, if you want to tackle the last few dungeons of the game. There's really a lot of very easy modifications you can do to improve the list, but as it is, all commons and uncommons easily achievable. You can get them from the auction house, and you can get going and have a good leveling build that will help you get just more cards going into the more advanced PvE builds. So this was CoachFliperon signing off, wishing you a great day. See you on the next video.